Who out there loves corporate governance? Are there lovers of corporate governance out there? Are there also lovers of human rights? When you look at human rights and you also look at corporate governance, much of the time, the persons who are skilled in human rights, they stay on the side of human rights. The lawyers or professionals who are skilled in corporate governance, they stay on the side of corporate governance. But within this video, I want to see how I can bridge that gap as much as possible. When we look at human rights and business and human rights, BHR, hashtag BHR, HRDD, all of these very beautiful terminologies and all of that, we see that for human rights to fully be understood by companies, it has to first be introduced at the corporate governance level. I would say also that it has to first be introduced at the boardroom level. That's where the entire game is played. I love corporate governance. Why I said that earlier on was because I've seen how that corporate governance can shape the culture of a company, can even shape behaviors. You have like the board members, sitting, taking decisions on behalf of the company, trying to create the roadmap upon which the company would build upon and take certain decisions that will affect the way that company does business. And that just goes to make me understand that the boardroom is a very powerful tool. It's a powerful tool that has the ability to advance business and human rights principles and mainstream all of that within the operations of companies. So when we're looking at who are the key stakeholders when we're talking about business and human rights, it's not just to say the companies or the corporates. We need to look closely. These companies in question, do they have a boardroom structure? Is it a one-man company, a one-man show company, a private company? There are even some private companies that adopt corporate governance principles to advance their businesses. And of course, everybody would feel that, when you talk about corporate governance, you are looking at the fact that the board members are doing the bidding of the shareholders and their major aim is to make profit. Profit is beautiful for every business and for any business. But what we are saying when we're looking at the nexus between human rights and corporate governance just simply means that the conversations around human rights must be within a vehicle that transports itself into the boardroom where those conversations can be had, where those conversations can first be understood. Because if there's a misapplication of the understanding of what business and human rights intends to do within a company or within a boardroom structure or within a corporate governance structure, if there's that misstep, it can create a lot of problems. So within this boardroom that we talk about, this is where the framework should be best explained. So I would say this, for example, maybe to CEOs. I would also want to leverage the expertise of company secretaries to find the easiest pathway to be able to talk about these things within the boardroom system. And of course, what that would tell you and I basically would be that company secretaries require this knowledge. They need to understand what business and human rights is really about. Business and human rights is not the game, or the aim is not to take away profits. The aim basically is to see that companies now operate in an updated structure that takes into consideration the impact and the risk where the absence of human rights can, cause a lot of damage, reputational damage to companies. So we need to see the possibility of engaging company secretaries, of engaging CEOs within this conversation so that we can mainstream all of that into the entire corporate governance system of companies. When that begins to happen, that, I believe, is when companies are reborn. The rebirth of any company, in my opinion, would be that the company has opened its doors and has opened its arms towards receiving the influx of the new knowledge and the new principles, the new ingredients that business and human rights, through the UNGPs, of course, as a basis, seeks to bring into the operations of companies. When we can start having that as normalcy within companies within the global south, trust me, then we can say to ourselves that we're doing much more and we're doing better. And Africa is evolving. Is evolving in the way it does business. You would almost begin to ask yourself that, what is the role of conflict? What is the role of conflict? This is not another video, but I just want to touch on the role of conflict. We look at conflict-ridden countries. I wouldn't want to mention any, because I've come to realize that much of the time when we find conflicts in countries, you might be quick to blame the primary actors that are seen and not taking into account that there might be unseen fingers that move these primary actors to take the decisions that they take within a conflict life cycle within a country. So I'm not going to use this to apportion blame. No. All I'm trying to say is that where you find conflict and you still see that there are thriving businesses, like there are certain businesses, maybe businesses within the mineral sector, for example, those businesses are still thriving within the countries where conflict exists. I believe it already tells you one thing: the complicity of the actions of companies within these countries. Much of the time, it could be as a result of companies wanting to fuel further disaffection in these countries so that they can continue to take advantage of the mineral resources that exist within these countries. The moral question, you answer that question. But basically, I just want to say that even in worst case scenarios, even in the worst of scenarios, where you have companies where that knowledge of BHR exists, there is the semblance of the possibility that companies would definitely be able to do better. And once we have companies doing better, that just lets me understand that there's a new spirit within those companies. Companies that adopt sustainability practices, companies that adopt business and human rights practices, I believe that's the rebirth of companies. And I hope that this video has made sense to you. If you have any questions or you feel that we should engage in further interactions around this video, I'm very welcome. I'm very excited to engage with you. And I hope to see you on the next video.